Welcome back to another edition of Live Lunch and Learn. I'm your host, Lambros Demos, and I'm very excited about today's show. I have a very special guest with me today. Her name is Natalie Forstbauer, and she has an incredible story to tell. Natalie is a traumatic brain injury survivor, and now she's thriving in her role as a regenerative global health expert. And she has her own magazine, and she's made countless appearances in the media, both in Canada and the USA. So it's an honor to bring her on the program today. Please welcome Natalie Forstbauer.
Hello. Hi,
hey, Natalie.
Lambros.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's such an honor to be a part of your live lunch.
The honor's mine, for sure. So welcome to the show. And before we get started, just a note to the audience, whoever's watching either live or in the replay, feel free to participate. Don't be shy, say hi, as I always say. If you have a question for Natalie, by all means, type it in the comments and we can answer it if we have time. Is that okay with you, Nat?
Yeah, love it.
Okay. Excellent. So tell us, Natalie, you have an incredible story. I've heard your story before, but do you want to share it with our audience here about your, if you don't want to, that's fine too.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to.
Okay.
I'm just like, where do I begin?
Okay.
So do you want me to I'll back it up to 2003, and I was I trained in polarity therapy and alternative medicine. I had my own practice as a personal success coach and health success coach and keynote speaker. I had just written my first book, and I was on my way to that book launch, and was in a major car accident that left me with a traumatic brain injury.
Wow.
And when I woke up, I didn't know my name. I didn't know who the person I was in the vehicle with. I knew he was important to me, but I didn't know who he was. And so that's when I landed with the traumatic brain injury. And it was really confusing because I knew, for example, that a chair was for sitting on, but I couldn't remember what it was called. I knew a stove was for cooking with, but I wasn't too sure how to use it. Those types of things. And so I went from being this super high functioning entrepreneur and organic farmer to not being able to remember what I had done 5 seconds ago, let alone a minute or 2 minutes or 10 minutes ago.
Wow.
So it was really challenging.
Yeah. Not to make light of the situation, but sometimes I can't remember what I did 5 seconds ago.
Right. I hear you.
Right. Sorry to interrupt. Go on.
No,
I just had to throw that
okay.
in because I'm terrible with short-term memory. Just terrible.
Yeah. And that's been one of the gifts, because I was so hard on myself for a really long time, because my focus really became about getting better, it wasn't necessarily about getting the old me back, but it was for sure about getting my memory back, getting my organizational skills back, getting my business back, getting all the things that I thought were really, really important back. And then the learning in that about the short-term memory is actually just being okay. It's really okay that I don't remember what I might have done 30 seconds ago. It's okay if I ask the same question 3 or 4 times. And sometimes it's uncomfortable for the other person, and I just have to be okay with it being uncomfortable with the other person. So that was a really big learning. And then over the next 17 years, I just really focused on shifting that healing process to really deepening into and accepting and embracing who I was post-injury, and embracing and realizing that healing is not about fixing what we perceive to be broken or getting rid of the illness or getting rid of the disease. It's actually embracing who we are, where we are right in this very moment. So that was...
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. I think it's a great way of looking at it, for sure. So this was 2003 or?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then how long did it take you to recover? Or are you fully recovered now at all? Or?
Well, those are two really good questions. So in 2008 is when I had a pivotal shift, is kind of when I realized and started to accept that I actually had a brain injury and that I may not recover, as they say.
Okay.
And that's when I started to really focus on, instead of focusing on what I wanted to be able to do and focusing on everything I could no longer do, I started to focus on what I could do and what I could do well every single day. And those were really simple things. They were feeding my kids 3 meals a day, plus making sure they got their snacks and water in between, and loving them every single day. And that is what I started to build my world around, because it's really all I could handle and put on my plate at the time. And then I started adding little things, like nothing comes to mind right now, but just little things, and just celebrating. Like if I actually finished cutting a cucumber and putting it on a plate and put it on the table to feed my kids, that was a huge success, because often I'd cut the cucumber, I'd leave the cucumber, I'd go to the next room, start something else, and the next room, something else. And then 3 hours later, I'd see this cucumber half cut on the shelf and wondering why my kids are so cranky because I hadn't had something to eat, and it's not to say that the kids were neglected, because they are, they're 13, 15, and 16-year-olds old now, and they made it through, and I ended up getting a lot of really good support. But anyways, to wrap that thought up, in 2008 it was pivotal, because I started to build on what I could do. And I think that's a really important piece in our healing journey, and also in business, is focusing on what we can do and then building on that, and looking at what's on the horizon for our next steps and wherever we are.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And kudos to you. You came back from that, accident, and now you've just been rolling along since then. You've done some incredible things. You have your own magazine. Tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks. So to tie that into answering just the other question, because I think it's an important question regarding brain injury, Lambros, if I may.
Okay.
It's
Absolutely.
because you asked if I've healed, and I may not have the skills that I had before the accident. However, when a person experiences something like a brain injury, they might not have some of the skills that they had before. And at the same time, new skills are birthed. And they might be birthed at the time of the injury because different parts of the brain are woken up, or they might be birthed as the healing journey goes on. So for me, it was really, I learned how to have a deep sense of compassion, and also really, it taught me really how to be more present with myself and with friends and with clients and with people. And so even though I might not be healed in terms of where I was before to where I am now, I really considered myself completely healed in terms of really being able to embrace what my abilities are today, and really nurturing those gifts and nurturing the support that I need to have around me to be as high functioning as I can be. So it's a different defining of healing.
Excellent. No, that's a great answer. And I really like that you said you learned to be present, because that's such an important skill, and it's a very underappreciated skill for people, right? So it is good. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. And thanks for that, Lambros, because it's so funny, because I fought it for so long post-brain injury, because really that's all I was in after the brain injury. I couldn't think about what was happening or going to happen in the future. And I couldn't remember what had just happened. So I was always present. But the thing was, I was always like, there's this tug of war of wanting to remember. And there's this tug of war of wanting to be able to vision and imagine what the future might be like. So learning how to just be like, here.
That's amazing.
Was super powerful. Which brings us to the Heart and Soil magazine. And as I went through the healing journey over the 17 years, I really thought that I'd be more focused on brain health and the healing of the brain and the neuroplasticity of the brain through the foods we eat, through the thoughts we think, through the way we live our lives, all the things. And then I had, in 2019, when I was doing a visioning a global leadership visioning retreat, I had, I guess you could say, a vision of the earth in a totally new way than how it is today. And it was so powerful, Ambrose, because the way we grew our food was different. The way we interacted with each other was different. The way we build and the way we use the resources of the earth and the way we worked with the earth was different. The colors were more vibrant. There was synchronicity. There was it was so profound and so moving, and it leaves me speechless right now. Finding the words to describe it is sometimes really hard. Yeah. But what it made me realize is that the urgency that we have right now is to actually look after our earth and look after the planet. And that's how Heart and Soil magazine was born, because we know right now the world is literally on fire, right? Greta, that's one of her famous phrases, is our home is on fire, our world's on fire. And now this summer is some of the worst forest fires in not just our country, Canada, but the States. I just
all around
saw
the
yesterday
world.
That the Greek islands are literally burning up. Like,
that's right.
It's alarming, and it covers me in goosebumps. And so I knew for sure that I wanted to be a part of that, of the conversation of what can we do? What can we do locally and globally? And that's what Heart and Soil is about.
That's fantastic. Yeah. It's a fabulous name too. It's just it just fits perfectly, right? It's great. It's great. And we have two lovely comments here from Cynthia and Dina. So shout out to them. Thank you, ladies, for your comments. Now, so just shifting back to what you do, right? And how you help, cool the planet, growing your own food. I love it, right? I love it because I'm a weekend gardener kind of thing. I'm not I'm not the best at it, but I do enjoy growing my own vegetables, etc. I just love it. And I love the environment as well. So everything that you do, it resonates with me. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show. So tell us about that. The topic today is 3 ways to grow your own food and help green the planet, right? So start us off. What's tip number 1?
Yeah, well, Heart and Soil magazine really focuses on thinking globally and acting locally. So what can we do right in our own backyards to green our planet and to cool our planet? So tip number 1 is really to plant what you like and what you love to eat. And so I'm curious, Lambros, what do you like to eat? What are you planting in your backyard?
Well, I've got right now tomatoes and cucumbers, which I absolutely love tomatoes and cucumbers, right? So Greek salad, right? So
yes, all summer long.
Yes, for sure. And I also have some 3 different types of hot peppers. I've got jalapenos and then 2 other ones. I forget the name now, but they're the hot peppers because I love spicy foods and I love to add that in there for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And the great things about tomatoes and cucumbers is they produce not all summer long, but from the first time you pick them to the last time you harvest them, they are literally producing. So you can have fresh food for weeks.
100%.
And here's a little cucumber tip though, because a lot of people aren't aware that if you are growing cucumbers, you want to keep picking them at least every week or every few days and not letting them get really big. Because if you're growing pickling cucumbers and you let them get really big, that's what slows the producing of the plant down, and it can actually shut the production right down. So,
really?
So you want to be mindful of that. And when you're growing the larger slicers or English cucumbers, then of course you're going to let them grow big. And you want to keep them harvested. But if you leave them on to the point where they go, I don't know if you've ever had any go yellow or grow really, really big and maybe turn white.
I do have slicers. So I'm just not sure. I see when the tip starts to get a little bit yellow, that's when I cut them off. So should I do it before that happens?
No, that's fine. It depends on how you like the flavor. So the longer you leave them on, when they get that yellow on the tip, then they can be a little bit more tangy. And if you like them a little bit less tangy and more cucumbery, then you can pick them a little bit sooner. Dina, I love. Thank you. I love how you connected with the urgency to look at our planet. So that's really powerful.
Yeah,
So
Dina's amazing, and she liked the tip that you gave as well.
awesome. Thank you. So that is
So,
that's my favorite tip, is to plant what you like to eat, because then you're going to be invested in growing it. And
mm,
and it doesn't have to be a food. It can be flowers. Like maybe you have always wanted to have flowers like they do in fancy restaurants in your salad. So you can start with something like nasturtiums or even roses, and making sure you're not spraying them, of course, with chemicals. And or even pansies. I don't know if you know that, but you can eat pansies. You can
I
put them
didn't
on
know that.
flowers. Yeah, you can put
Wow.
them, decorate your cakes with them. A lot of flowers are edible, and you can actually just Google it to make sure that they are edible.
Whoa, really?
Before you, yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah.
Wow, I
It's
learned something new today.
yeah,
Fantastic.
lavender, for example. You can make just simple syrups for your coffees or teas with lavender, or you can put it in
Oh my
like
goodness.
custards, or yeah, there's also sorts of cool things you can do
Wow.
with flowers. So being mindful of that, and then also as a great pollinator, it's great for the bees and butterflies and
Mm,
all the things that we love to see in our gardens.
cool.
Another good thing to start with is herbs. So a lot of people are like, it's too overwhelming to, babysit, or I don't have enough room to grow a garden. Just plant some herbs, your favorite things that you like to
Yep.
eat. Thyme is really easy to grow most of the time. And what's it called? And it's super versatile. So you can use it in dressings, on proteins, in salads, all sorts of things. So
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
be it. Hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, I grew basil one year,
Hmm.
basil
Yeah,
one year.
basil. Yeah.
So, yeah, and it was so fresh, right? It was
Yes.
just incredible. It was powerful, powerful basil.
Hmm.
Nothing like I've ever bought before in the supermarkets, right? So, wow,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
great. Awesome.
So the second tip would be to go vertical and use containers if you don't have
Hmm.
a yard to grow in.
Yep.
And I'm just going to back it up, or tie in a little bit of, if you do have a yard and you don't have a tiller and you have no way to turn like even a little patch of grass, even like a 1 by 1, maybe you just want to plant a few potato plants because you're a potatoes and meat kind of
Hmm.
person, and that's the
Yep.
only vegetable you eat. You can actually just start by putting down a few layers of cardboard, and then about 8 inches of compost, like really, really good, healthy compost. And then you can plant your seeds and your seedlings right into that. So you don't even need to till the grass. You can make a garden really
Really?
easily. Yeah, it's really amazing. We have tips like that in Heart and Soul magazine and the gardening hacks issue.
Oh,
Um, the only thing you do want to do is you want to really make sure you drench that compost before, or cardboard before,
right.
putting that
Oh,
compost on
that's
top.
cool. Okay, so
Yeah,
you don't
it's
have to
amazing.
till. You can put it
No tilling.
right on top of the grass, or in a
Yeah.
container, you mean? Or is it
No, just
on
right
top
on
of?
top of the grass, right on top of the
Okay.
grass. So that's an easy way to start a garden. It's
Oh,
so easy. And if you want to do a container garden, you can do it in the same way. A lot of people are putting up these beautiful containers and they're like digging away, pulling away the grass, they're
yeah.
tearing it out, and you don't have to. All that greenery from the grass will actually feed the worms and feed your soil. If you leave it there, cover it with 2 or 3 layers of cardboard, drench it, like make sure it's really, really wet, not just a little
Really?
bit wet, but really, really
Okay.
wet, because what that does is it brings the worms up to the surface and then they chew away on that. They really like it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hmm.
So how thick does it have to be? Like how deep does it have to be?
The compost or this
The
cardboard?
compost, well, altogether, because I'm thinking of the roots, right? I mean, pardon my ignorance. I don't know.
Yeah,
The roots have to go down and grow, right? Or do they go out to the side? Like, I'm not sure.
that's a great
But
question.
yeah.
That's a great question, Lambros. And Cynthia, yes, cardboard is magic. So what's magic about this process is you plant the seeds or the seedlings into the compost,
Yeah.
and then all that grass that was there gets turned into soil.
Oh,
And so
right.
the roots grow through the compost and then down in through the cardboard and then down into the soil.
Wow. Oh, so
Yeah,
so they can penetrate the cardboard and then
that's
penetrate
right.
the soil underneath, the sod underneath.
That's right.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
cardboard is literally food for all the microorganisms that we're wanting to put into the soil to help store carbon and help sequester carbon, and to make a healthy soil, what's called a healthy soil sponge, or a healthy soil food web.
Fantastic. No, I love it. I love it because you're also recycling at the same time, right? So
That's right.
this is fantastic. I love this. That's great.
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
try it.
It's really good. You'll have
Yeah,
to let me
yeah,
know how it goes. Take some
yeah,
pictures,
yeah.
post
Absolutely,
about it.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great tip,
Great.
when you're meeting people like around the neighborhood, or maybe it's somebody who's looking for a house and who wants
Right.
to put in a
Sure.
garden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now that I know, I say, hey, you know what? You can always use cardboard. Do
That's
this.
right. Yeah, that's right. I think we even have that
Great.
on our Instagram, that specific tip with all the steps. So
Right
you
on.
can just go
Right on.
check that out.
Yeah.
And the last one, which I think is really the most important next to growing our own food, is just stop using chemicals. Just stop, because it is really chemicals are being linked to the deterioration of our own health and our pets' health and our planet's health. And it's really important. And I don't know that people understand the urgency of it. And that's what's alarming, because it's become so normal to spray our driveways with chemicals or glyphosate to get rid of the weeds that are coming up through the cracks, instead of like something simple like vinegar and salt. And
Oh, wow. Okay.
so every time we use chemicals on our grounds, we're killing the living microbes in our soil, and we're also killing our own living microbes within our stomachs. Like, we're hearing a lot about leaky gut, ADD, ADHD, ASD, irritable, like IBS, the influx of cancer, all the things, and that they're all being linked to the chemicals that we're using in our yards and in our homes and in our gardens, and the way that we use our food. So in saying that, can I offer a few quick solutions for people?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So because I know a lot of people don't like the dandelions in the front yard, right? They're just annoying. That's one of the things we go to. We go to with chemicals, because we want our yards to look nice, and we have neighbors that we care about what they think about what we're doing. And so one of the things you can do every fall and every spring is put about 1 inch of compost on your grass. So go to your local gardening store, find a local farmer who makes really good organic compost, and put about 1 inch or so of that on your soil, and that will actually help bring the nutrients to help your grass grow. And a lot of weeds actually don't like healthy soil, so that's something to be mindful of. And then to get rid of the those dandelions and stuff like that, if you don't want them, is just using a mixture of vinegar and salt and what's it called? Dish soap, a little bit of dish soap.
Oh, right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That's a great tip. Excellent. I love it. That's awesome. Because I don't use chemicals in my vegetable garden, right? But what I've done is I've put in plastic forks in the soil to prevent, because I have these squirrels that always come and eat my they love it, right? So I put those, and they seem to have worked to scare them off, right? Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So if you see little plastic forks sticking out from there, that's what they're for. But it doesn't control the I still see some, maybe it's worms or bugs or something, like getting into, like I picked a tomato the other day and there was like a couple of holes in it. So how would I prevent that from happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's helpful to know what the bug is, and without seeing it, I really actually don't know, Lambros.
Okay.
There's different things you can do to prevent the bugs. There's netting. There's some really, really fine mesh netting you can put over your gardens or over your plants that prevents some, especially if you have like cabbages and broccolis and cauliflowers, which are more prone to bugs. You can put that netting over top of it. The other thing is identifying what that bug is, and then sending me an email, and I can I can look it up to see what we can do to help you with that. And then another thing is companion planting. So, and there's a lot of really good information out there on companion planting. So, for example, and one of the things I tested this year was I planted onions with our cabbages, and to help prevent some of the what are they called? Like cabbage, they're cabbage moths, and they're the things that put holes in your cabbage leaves and kale leaves. And if anyone has grown those cruciferous vegetables, you know what I'm talking about. If you've had a problem with them, they destroy them.
Yeah.
And the cabbage that I'm growing close to the garlic and the onions, and have onions interspersed, has no bug damage at all this year. So
wow,
it's really cool learning to see what repels certain insects and what attracts them.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. That's a great tip. Wow,
fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, that's great, Natalie. I mean, I didn't even notice the time here. We're at 27 minutes. Mm-hmm. Was there anything else that you wanted to add? Any other tips? I mean, I can go on forever talking about.
Yeah, I know, me too. I guess the only other thing would be, two things. One is to compost as much as you can. So if you're not able to compost in your own home or in your own backyard, then finding a city recycling or composting program and getting involved with that. Yep. And then going vertical with container gardening if you don't have that place. We didn't really touch on that. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to go vertical gardening. Yep. And that one of the really cool articles that we had by MP from Refarmers in Heart and Soul magazine, the Gardening Hacks issue, was she reuses coffee bean bags. So we all know coffee roasters, or we might not know them personally, but we have them in our cities and in our areas, and we can get these big, beautiful burlap sacks and fill those with soil and compost. And here's a tip. This isn't in the magazine, but this will be in a future issue. Okay. Is grinding up newspaper and cardboard, like soaking wet, yep. and other food scraps that you put in a blender. So mix that together. Yep. And then put like little pockets of that into that big burlap sack with some worms, with some red wiggler worms. And that helps nourish that soil as your plants are growing in it. So you fill up this big burlap sack with soil and compost, and then you plant in the top of it. You can plant tomatoes or even maybe a squash plant. And on the sides, you can plant things like kale, you can plant broccoli, you can plant heads of lettuce. And so you have this sack that, you'd think you can only plant in the top of, but you can actually plant down the sides as well. So it's really a creative way of
that's
planting
very
vertically.
Cool. Very cool. I mean, when you said vertical gardening, I'm trying to draw an image of that. I'm not sure exactly. So where do you put the bag? Like, you hang it somewhere, or I'm not sure.
No, you actually sit it in the ground. So this is imagine. Okay. So this is just a bowl, but imagine it was higher, right? Yep. And so you plant in the top of it, and then you cut little slats.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In the side, you cut a slat here, and then you plant a lettuce plant here in the side. Oh. And so it grows out the side. And then maybe over here you plant a kale plant, and that would grow the side and grow your kale for you.
Wow.
And maybe over here you plant a cucumber plant, and that would grow, down and onto the ground, and the cucumbers would grow off of it. So you're planting, and then on the top, maybe you're planting a tomato plant that's really big, and you can plant, depending on how big the top of the burlap sack is, you can plant quite a few things. And, it's not just a burlap sacks you can do this with, but you can use it, those big rain barrels, the big blue and black rain barrels. You can also fill those up, and you can cut holes in the sides of those and plant and use that as a vertical garden as well. And they can look really pretty because, nasturtiums, for example, an edible flower that you plant on the side, they grow prolifically all the way around, and they cover all that blue. And at Eve Gardening, it's EVE Gardening. If you Google them, they have lots of really good ideas on the vertical gardening with buckets and with those big rain barrels. And
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool. Okay, awesome. No, I definitely have to try that. That is such now I'm seeing the images, and wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And just one more last thing for kids. Can I give a little kids tip?
Yeah, you can give. We have a question as well. Do you have time to
ask the question for sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a question from Dina. Could you share some tips for indoor plants, especially during winter when there isn't a lot of sunlight?
That's such a good question, Dina. I have struggled with that a lot. So finding the most south facing window you can, or west. If you don't have a south facing window, then you're probably going to have to look for your east or west window, whichever has more light for you. And plant, like if you're growing, for example, greens or microgreens during the winter, literally putting those trays right on your windowsill or as close to your windowsill as possible. That's really the best tip. And then there are lights you can actually buy that produce more of sunlight kind of rays, and there's more and more of those at gardening stores. So they're more easy to find, and you can put those by your plants if you are growing food indoors, or if you just have if you like plants indoors, you want to give them a bit of extra support.
Great.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Dina, for the question.
Yeah,
and
thank you,
Dina.
Dina.
Natalie. Awesome. So you had one last tip for kids?
Yes. And this one's super fun because I think a lot of people have these materials around home, and that's just using, pardon me, old, like recycled pop bottles or juice bottles for growing containers. So all you do is you cut the bottom off of them, you turn them upside down, cut the bottom off of them, fill them up with soil, and then you plant plants in the top of them, and and then you can just you can hammer them to put them on on your fence posts, or you can put them.
Neat.
Yeah. You can actually use you can put a couple holes in the side of them, and you can use a zip tie. And so if you don't want to, pound holes into your wood, you can zip tie them around your patio. And you can, anyways, they look beautiful once they start to fill out, and you can grow lettuce and all sorts of things in them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you very much, Natalie. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day, your week. Fantastic. And everybody else, thanks again for tuning in. Thank you for your questions and participation. And have a great one. Ciao.
Yeah, thanks, Lambros.
No problem. Bye.
Enjoy your day.
You too.